Prime Minister's speech today set some important tests. A test for the Labor Party and, of course, as I said, a test for the states. Is Labor capable of putting aside its union instincts to join a national consensus on getting more efficient and more effective workplaces with more jobs? And are the states capable of changing their training structures to respond to what business really needs? Because without better trained workers and more efficient workplaces, we can't have and won't have a more prosperous economy. We won't recover as quickly or indeed as well as we should from this shutdown. As befits our national leader, Scott Morrison began his remarks today by invoking the stoicism of ordinary Australians bearing up under the pressure of the worst national crisis in 70 years. And as befits the leader of a centre-right government, he reiterated, you can't sustain people indefinitely on borrowed money. What was new was his Bob Hawke-like bid for consensus on important national reforms, backed by a big olive branch to Labor and the unions, dropping, at least for the time being, the coalition's three-time election commitment to legislate, a fit and proper person test for union officials and a public interest test on union mergers. This, in fact, was exactly what Bill Shorten said this morning would be a sign of good faith if the government really did want to build a consensus on reform, and it was generous of the PM to respond as he did. It would, though, require a huge all-round shift in attitude and a remarkable readiness to truly act in the national interest for today's bid for consensus to succeed. In the past, Bob Hawke was able to cut tariffs, deregulate finance markets, liberalise workplace laws and begin the process of privatisation because he and Hawke-Keating surrendered much of Labor's orthodoxy. He and Keating understood that in the end, only profitable private businesses would be able to pay workers more, to employ more workers and to grow the economy. To get the unions over the line, Hawke's famous accord made union leader Bill Kelty a de facto cabinet minister. And Hawke knew that freeing up the economy and rewarding aspiration would have a natural supporter in the then opposition, the Liberals. For Scott Morrison, of course, it's a bigger challenge because this time, if he wants consensus, almost certainly the government will have to move towards the opposition. Only this time, unlike in Hawke's era, that almost certainly means more government involvement in the economy, not less. And dropping draft laws like the ones they did today that were meant to hold union bosses to account is just the start. The Industrial Relations Minister, Christian Porter, now has the unenviable task of sitting down with unions, employers and community representatives over the next 3 months via a series of roundtable working groups to see whether such consensus is possible. Now, you've got to give Scott Morrison credit for trying. My instinct is that beyond motherhood stuff like in-principle support for award simplification, enterprise bargaining and enforcement, there'll be no agreement on the detail. And then it'll be up to the government before the end of the year, I suspect, to draw up its own reform bill and fight to put it past Labor and through the Senate in the usual way. I hope I'm wrong here. I really hope I'm wrong, but this is a Labor movement led by the left in Anthony Albanese and not the right like it was in Hawke's day. But even if that's the outcome, that Labor walks away in the end, the fact is that no one will be able to then accuse Morrison of being ideological or a bull at a gate because he's given this a shot. And as for the PM's offer of a public hospital-style funding agreement on vocational education with an agreed efficient price for courses and activity-based funding, it would certainly be a step in the right direction. But, as the states have shown all too often on hospitals, they're very good at absorbing new structures and pocketing the Commonwealth's money while resisting real change. Of course, as the PM rightly said, compared to university, for many Australians, a trade is a first-class option, not a second-class one. So we need to reform how we train people and what courses we have. I agree. But what business wants most of all are workers who can read and write, who can count and think, and who have a good grounding in all the basics with a work ethic to match. Because workers can be trained up on the job if they come work ready, like this. But that, of course, means a better school system. Possibly with a technical stream like I had in my day, once again, rather than just a whole lot of vocational education courses that business don't want, or more billions, like Gonski, that just throw money at a problem rather than fix it. As the PM said today, opening this economy up will be much harder than shutting it down, which is why we can't waste this opportunity to rethink how we do things and do them better.